Multicam clips in Premiere completely changed my life when I found out about them, but they can be a real headache if you don't know what you're doing. Hey, I'm JB and I'm here to help you level up your editing game. And today I want to talk about one of those things that's leveled it up for me, which is multicam. I love this option inside of Premiere. So let's dive into it. What is multicam? So if you've ever been to a television studio, or maybe you work at a church and they've got the production studio in the back where they have the many different cameras and you see all the different screens with all the feeds, and that's really what Premiere is letting you do inside of multicam. You can link many different cameras all together and then just play the timeline and choose which camera you want to go to next. And you can do that all inside of the timeline. You can see how this would work really nicely. You can do all of that, make all your edits, and then go back and do some fine tuning, but you can kind of do a live pass on that first time through if you want to. Now you can set this up by highlighting all the clips and audio that you want to combine into your multicam, and you right click and select Create Multicam Source Sequence. Now it needs to know what way you want to sync everything, either by in and out points, time code, or sound. Now, if you have a slate on the footage, I would say before you go to this step, go back into your clips and just bring your cursor right to the point where the slate connects and just set an endpoint there. And then you can choose endpoints inside of the Create Multicam sequence and just have it sync all through that there, and it's gonna go a lot faster. But if you're an independent filmmaker and you're on a rush, or you're at a live event and you can't really have that time to really sync it, there are other options, the biggest one of which is audio. If you've ever used Pluralize, it operates a lot like that, where it's going to analyze all of the audio and it's going to sync up everything based on that audio. But don't forget, every camera has to have its own audio or it's not going to work. I've done it before, been frustrated, and then you get into the back end and you're like, oh, I didn't have audio. I didn't have scratch audio for all my cameras, so it's not going to sync it. And of course, if you have time code, if you're on a bigger project and you've had time code sync inside of each of your cameras and you don't feel like it's drifted too much, use that option as well. So back inside the setup, I honestly wouldn't change anything else on these settings. Just go forward from here. This creates a new multicam file that you'll see in your bin over here. And if you double click, you can see all of the camera angles in the preview window. When you drop it on your timeline, you'll see it only shows one of the angles though, but we can change which camera it's looking at by just using your number keys if you haven't already changed what your shortcuts are. So you can just click 1, 2, 3. It all depends on how many cameras you have. So if you only have 3 cameras, 1, 2, and 3 are the only ones that are gonna work. If you have 7 cameras, 1 through 7 is gonna work. And you can just choose which one you want using the number keys. But the real power comes, like I said, when you have this toggle multicam view button turned on, which you can just add in the program window. When you have that chosen, you can now operate like a little tiny recording studio. Just hit play on your sequence, and as it goes along, just change which numbers you're going, 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1, whatever you want to do. And you're going to see it's going to make those changes in the program window. And then when you stop, it's going to make all of those edits where you had made those cuts in between. So like I said before, you can do this on your first pass through, and then afterwards see where all your edits were and just use your little rolling edit tool to kind of go back and forth to kind of really fine tune the edit the way that you want it. So here's a couple pro tips I want to go over with you. The first of which is proxies. Proxies are low resolution files you use just to edit with for a smoother experience, and then bring back the original files for color grading and final delivery. I would highly suggest you make proxy files especially if you've got 4K footage, 8K footage, you've got red cameras, you've got air cameras, anything that's gonna bog down your system. Even if you're on a really fast RAID system, I would still suggest making proxies. If you don't know what I'm talking about and you've never made proxies before, please check out my other video on how you can do that simply. The next pro tip I have for you is this option to reveal the sequence in timeline. Now, why is that important? There's so many things you can do with this feature. First of all, you can rearrange the order of the cameras. If you want camera 4 actually on as camera 1 or 2 or 3, you can do all of that by just changing which layer it's on. I do this all the time. Every time I get a project set up for me, when my assistant editor sets it up and I go in, I'm always gonna kind of rearrange which one I want, where if I have haven't told them prior to it. Because a lot of times I'll just have 1, 2, 3 ready to go with my fingers ready to go, and I'll just jump back and forth between the most used cameras, and then I can quickly get to the other ones. But if I've got this random wide static shot that I'm never gonna use except for occasionally throughout the project, if it's like a live event, I want that at the end. I wanna be able to like, oh, if I miss it, I can come back and get that later. But if I'm gonna use my head to toe and my close-up shot and then maybe a side angle, I just want those ready to go. So that's one option when you reveal it in the sequence. The second factor of revealing the sequence in the timeline is you can create your own depth cut. So what is that? So in this very video, I've been cutting back and forth between my static, my wide shot right here, and then boom, jumping in right here. See how that's back, forth, back, forth, back, forth? That's called a depth cut. And all I'm doing is just punching in a little bit tighter, then coming back out digitally. I like to create that inside of my multicam because it lets me use this feature to go back and forth very quickly when I'm doing my first pass versus having to copy paste the motion attributes back and forth to remember which one is where, etc. I just like having that done inside of the multicam. That's something you can do inside of the reveal sequence option. But the really good thing that I love about this option to reveal the sequence is color grading. If you look at your project and you've got all of these edits and you have to go back clip by clip and really tighten in and do all the color grade, then you have to copy that grade to another if it's a similar clip. You don't have to worry about that all with this because you can just go into reveal sequence in the timeline, go to each one of the clips and just color grade that one clip once. Once, you heard me, you only have to color it once and it adds it to all of the rest of your clips in the sequence. It's great. I use this all the time. It's great. I'm sorry, I'm gonna stop saying great now. So the last pro tip I have for you is flattening. Now, what is that? Flattening is where you highlight your entire section, or you can just do one piece of it, and it'll take that from a multicam clip and it'll convert it to its source clips. Now, there are several reasons that you would want to do this, one of which is DaVinci. If you send out an XML out of Premiere to DaVinci and it's a multicam, it's not going to read it. I don't know why it does, but it's not going to read it. It's just going to be blank on the screen. So you have to flatten all of your multicams before you send it out to round trip to DaVinci. There's also some times where you may want to do some motion keyframing for just that one clip, maybe like a slow zoom on one really dramatic part of it, but you would rather have that option to really fine tune it with the full scope of it versus just doing it inside of the multicam. I can see that as a reason I've done it many times before. But if you're gonna do that, I would suggest just pulling up that one little clip that you're gonna do, flatten that one, but leave the one below it and then do your motion. Because if you ever wanna go back and change camera angle or whatever, you can get back to it quickly by just deleting it and you've still got the multicam down there versus having to go figure out what happened to what I just did. It's a lot easier. That's just a nice little pro tip. So this is not exhaustive by any means, but these are some of the basic features that I'm using all the time inside of multicam. If I'm setting it up or someone else sets it up for me, I know how to fine tune things for myself. And it's made my life so different being able to have this feature in there. And hopefully that helps you level up as well. So thanks for watching. If you liked this video, please hit subscribe, share this video with other people if you know someone who could really use this, and leave a note in the comments. Are you actively using multicam? Why or why not? What are some of the headaches you're having with it? And maybe I can even jump in and help address some of those issues as well. But thank you so much for watching.